everything that we use, everything that we take, every doctor that we go to, everything we do works on every single cell.
Heal the cell, heal the body.
Exactly right.
I cried not because my tooth broke, but because I had to go see a dentist.
We even put a sign up that said, holistic dentistry, and a lady walked in and she said, if I'd known that, I would never have come. And people who are in the know, like, holistic's an okay word. But when you're not, it just means crazy.
80% of the rest of the real estate is ultra processed food. Yep. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly right. And when they ultra process it, they strip it of all of the natural vitamins and minerals. Every single time you chew or swallow or put your teeth together, if you have a silver filling in your mouth, it's releasing mercury into your body.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
I'm Seth, and this is The Forever Young Show. The most powerful force in this world is a woman who knows who she is, why she is here, and what she wants to accomplish.
And that's where self-care comes in. As a woman, it is my opportunity and my responsibility to take care of me.
Self-care for your mind.
Self-care for your body.
Self-care for your money.
Our mission is to serve women as they fulfill their irreplaceable roles in families, society, business, the fabric of humanity.
So let's get this show on the road. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You're one very busy woman.
Well, I always make time for my favorite things. So thank you for having me.
Well, that's great. It only took us 2 years to get on we had to work up to the Julie Andrews My Favorite Things song.
Exactly.
And we
right.
finally...
You made it.
We finally... we crossed... And I think it's actually because we put our 6th patient into your practice.
I think maybe so.
Ruth had her first pediatric appointment in the office. But no, we super appreciate it. I know we've actually been working together, trying to put this together for months. Yeah. And boy, I don't remember when this was, but I don't even know if it was this year. I think it might have been it had to been this year because we launched the podcast this year.
Yeah.
But you said, give me until after May because I'm working on a project. And I'm not going to give a spoiler yet because I think Steph's going to jump into that. But thank you for making time among... Yep. How many businesses do you run?
3 right now.
You kind of left that open.
That right now.
Right now, sometimes I get bored. So there might be more. It's just the way it goes.
Remind me your husband's name.
Steve.
Okay, yes, Steve. I saw him actually in the office the other day.
Yeah.
I wish I had like a little Nerf ball. I was going to throw a little Nerf tooth at him if I could. But what does he say when you say, Steve, I have an idea?
Oh, that's the idea word is actually a swear word in our house. All my kids roll their eyes. They groan. They're like, Mom. So I just quit saying ideas. I now have a whole slew of other people that I talk to frequently, and I tell them my ideas because they don't groan. They don't have to personally endure what it means. So they are totally fine with listening to my ideas. So I just tell them now.
Oh, I love it.
Yep. It's good.
Oh my goodness. Well, you were a woman of many talents. I remember when I had my first appointment, and that really stems from Steph, and she's going to kind of get into how this whole thing started. Mm-hmm. Apparently you are creating business partnerships and podcast interviews all from just getting patients, right? Yep. In your practice. But I remember when I went into total dental care here in American Fork, Utah, for the first time at Stephanie's request.
Never happens.
Never happens.
May have been begrudgingly.
Never have husbands come because their wife forces them. It's never happened.
And this podcast is for women, right?
And I will say I did not force him.
Very good.
But.
Yep. Very good.
I was there because of you.
Mm-hmm, yep.
And it had
This
been
is true.
10 plus years since I had been at the dentist. And actually, I just had this flashback. I was not going to share this, but I remember you were doing our intake, and you're like, looking at your teeth, you're a grinder. And I felt like, I just felt so exposed. I was just like, I didn't want to expose my teeth, but, Anyway, I remember saying, Michelle, you are not simply and solely a dentist. You're a businesswoman. Like you are approaching this from a completely different standpoint. So for those women out there who are entrepreneurs, we'll talk. Hopefully, we'll get into leadership and building systems.
Love
but
to.
let's start. Let's start with the OG woman here on the
right.
Forever.
OG.
I've never called you the OG, but
I don't think you have.
I like it. I think it fits.
Okay. So I had not been to the dentist. I think right before we got married was the first time. So I'd been just over 7 years. And the reason I went, I was kind of forced because one of my teeth had broke. And I cried not because my tooth broke, but because I had to go see a dentist. Because I had horrible experiences my whole life.
So many times.
And so...
I think you had anxiety.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it was full-fledged.
High anxiety.
It was diagnosable anxiety because you could not mention the word dentist without, honestly, a central nervous system shock. At least that's how I would.
Yeah,
That's how I put
that's
it.
probably a good description.
Yeah.
So once that happened, then I started looking around. Like, I had heard so much about how your typical dentist doesn't really get to the root of the problem and doesn't really look at the body as a whole.
Pun intended.
Root. Exactly. Yep.
And I have had many health problems my whole life, and so I'm like, man, I've got to find something that's going to help me as a whole. And I think Carolyn Call was one of the first that I had seen talk about taking her son to get his wisdom teeth out, and just the importance of biodentistry and the whole body approach. And I was like, okay, maybe. But then I talked, I believe it was to my sister in California, and she's like, well, have you heard of Total Care Dental with Dr. Michelle Jorgensen? And I was like, well, actually, I did see something on that. And anyways, I think there was one other. I'm like, okay, after 3, we need
to do this.
Yes, yes. So I was like, okay. And just, really loved what I saw on your website, felt really good, and set up the appointment and drug my husband along. I'm just kidding.
I didn't have anxiety, but I was like, I haven't been in 10 years. I don't have any toothaches.
He's like, I'm fine. I'm good.
I don't have any problems.
I remember at the end of my appointment, not even at the end, he was like, okay, I need to set up an appointment.
That happens very frequently. People are starting to make a list. Okay, I need to call my grandma, my daughter, everybody needs to come in. Yep.
What are you most passionate about right now, and what are you doing about it?
So definitely most passionate about my book and what it's going to be about. And really, I've been a dentist a long time, and a lot of the things that I share when it relates to dentistry are very new. And so people are like, what? I love the jaw drop. I get a lot of jaw drops when I talk to people because it's all very new information. And it's great, but I'm kind of over it, I'm like, I've been talking about it a long time. I still love it, and I still do love it. But now I'm ready to talk about how does this relate to the rest of you? And how does that all tie together? And I'm ready to talk about gardening and cooking and how do you bring wellness to your kitchen and to your home and to every single day and do it in a way that's doable and not overwhelming. And I know that you are really big in this as well, and really kind of, I like to think of it as clearing a path through the mountains of information that people are exposed to today. Because it's not that we have too little information. I believe we have too much information.
Absolutely.
And it's so hard to differentiate what should I believe. And everything.
The Dorito information.
Everything.
And the tomato chip information.
Everything. Right? And then 5 people are saying Doritos are good for you, and 5 people are saying that the tomato chip is good for you. And who do you believe? You know what I mean? How do you believe? And so that's really my next mission. And my big mission in this is combining nature and science. So as a practitioner, I'm very versed in science and PubMed articles and, the way research works and all of that. It's difficult sometimes to navigate what that means. This is an interesting concept. So research studies, the way they work is they can manipulate the data almost any way you choose. And people don't understand this. So for example, let's say that we found out that Doritos lessened your chance. I did a study and found out that Doritos lessened your chance of heart disease by 50%. But when we really dig into the data, what we found out is that without a Dorito, 99 people didn't have heart disease, but with a Dorito, 98 people didn't have heart disease. So that was a 50% improvement from 2 people to 1 person.
Right.
And the data still, I can say, there was a 50% improvement in heart disease when I eat Doritos. So, yeah, but it was really only 1 person. But it was 50% because the first without Doritos was 2 people. Does that make sense?
Bring on the Cool Ranch.
Exactly,
right?
bring on the Cool Ranch. So the problem is interpreting the research is challenging too. So you start to dig into the science and, well, what does it mean? What does a meta-analysis mean? What does it mean to look at the different kinds of, so science is confusing. And then nature we kind of forgot about. You know, every traditional medical society on the planet previous to about the last 100 years used the earth, actually.
It all came
That's all
from
they had.
Mother Earth.
That's all they had. So what I looked at, this was a fascinating journey for me because I myself wanted to get well. And I said, how am I going to get well? Well, I like gardening. I like cooking. Okay, can I do it like with food, with plants? You know, can I do it this way? And so I started studying Ayurveda, which is an Indian. We were talking about Indian food earlier. You know, I started studying Ayurveda, which is thousands of years old from India. I started studying traditional Chinese medicine, which is thousands of years old from China. I started studying Native American medicine that was here in the United States area. I started studying German herbalism. I started studying all of these different traditions, and I realized that all of them were saying the same thing. They just used different words for it. It was all related to the earth. Everything was relating it to fire, earth, water, air, and plants. Every single one of them. The way they classified bodies, the way they told you what to do, the way your body's constitution was, they all related to the earth. And I said, they're just all using their own language. Mm-hmm. But I don't know it. Like if I tell you, what dosha are you in Ayurveda? You know, and if I tell you, well, I'm actually Vata, but some Pitta too.
Right.
What does that mean? Nothing.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But if I tell you I'm actually a spring, this is a true statement. I'm a spring. Well, you can start to think, okay, spring, lots of things come to life in the spring. Lots of things, you know, this is why I say I only have 3 businesses now, but there'll probably be more because I'm a spring. Because I start a lot of things. But my husband is a fall, which is so great because fall finishes everything.
Yeah.
Fall finishes everything. So I have a whole classification for just even yourself as yourself, you're probably a spring, you're probably a fall, you know, and it's a phenomenal collaboration between the two of you. You know, it's the way it works, but it's the way.
I'll plant it, you reap it, you harvest
because
it.
nothing reaps in spring except for fast-growing things.
Right.
Only radishes. You only harvest radishes in spring, you know, because they grow really fast. But the bodies also work in ways like this as well. So in spring, the organ systems that are related to it are the liver and the gallbladder. It's all detoxing. Guess what grows in the spring? Greens. Mm-hmm. And guess what detoxes the body? Greens. So when your body is in a spring season based on your symptoms, liver, gallbladder issues, you need detoxing foods. So what I've created is a system, a model of care that you can understand. Using and hearkening back to all of those ancient traditions, using them and combining them all into one. I brought them all together. I have yoga poses for each of the seasons, but now I can say to you, you're in a summer season right now. What does that mean? Well, summer is all about the stomach and the heart. And, you know, and so these are your digestive issues or you have heart issues. These are the foods you eat. These are the herbs you use. These are the ways you move your body. Like in the summertime, are you going to go and run, 30 miles? No, because you're going to overheat. So guess what you should be doing in the summer, even from a lifestyle standpoint? You should be doing a walk in the evening. You should be doing, whatever it might be. So that's what this whole model is about. And so the book is titled Living Well with Dr. Michelle. That wasn't going to be the title, but we went to literally 50 titles and they came back and said, the title is Living Well with Dr. Michelle. I said, fine, I guess that's the title. Because it really is about living. The stuff you do every day. It's not about trying to sift through all the science that's a mess. It's not about trying to sift through all the influencers that tell you, eat this, buy this, buy this. It's about saying, what is your body saying? Let's learn how to listen to it. So I have assessments that you take in there based on your symptoms. It walks you through everything you do, and it brings you back to the 5 elements of the earth. Plants, water, earth, fire, and air. How do you utilize them to be well? So that's what I'm passionate about, is that. Because to me, it's bringing everything that we used to know back to today.
We're going to get grounded, right? We're going to get
The
grounded.
Earth chapter is all about electrons that come from the Earth and electrolytes that carry the electrons, and teaching you these words that you sometimes hear but don't really understand. How does it actually work? And really, the reason, part of the reason I'm so passionate about this as well is this is my mission. I was literally told this is what you're supposed to do. This is why you got sick. This is why you need to teach people how to get better, because you had to learn how to get better. And all the profits that come from the book are actually going to charity, every single penny. And they're going to charities that relate to the 5 elements of the earth. So like school lunch programs that bring food into lunches for kids, into clean water programs that help bring clean water to civilizations wherever we might be. Every penny is going to charity. So if you guys promote the book, those pennies will be donated in your name to charities.
Awesome.
And that's what it's all going to be about, because we have to change the way that we stay well.
So biodentistry, do you refer to your practice as biodentistry?
No, I like to call myself health-based dentistry, because when I first started getting into this, and if people don't know my story, I am what I am now because I myself got sick, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that dentistry could cause it, but it literally was because I'd been drilling out people's silver fillings, which are 50% mercury, for 10 years. And breathing in all of the fumes of all of that, and I literally the practice was for sale because I couldn't keep practicing. My hands were so numb, I couldn't hold instruments anymore. It was bad. And so I started into this new realm of, well, what am I going to do? And I had to find a new way to practice, and it was really termed holistic. And people who are in the know, like, holistic's an okay word. But when you're not, it just means crazy. It just means straight up crazy. Like, I'm going to be wearing tie-dye and doing the peace signs, and we got incense burning.
Incense burning when you come
the
in.
The whole thing, like, that's what you
Exactly.
think of. In fact, one time we even put a sign up that said, holistic dentistry, and a lady walked in and she said, if I'd known that, I would never have come. And so we said, all right, perhaps that word brings a little bit of meaning that we don't really want associated with us, even though it makes sense. Like, holistic just means whole body. It makes sense, but there's been a lot of misnomer attached to that word. So I like the concept, or just to call myself, health-based. We just look at your health and say, how does your mouth affect it? So it's pretty straightforward, because you say biologic dentist or biodentist, people don't really know what that means either. It's just kind of a made-up word. So nobody really knows what that means either. So I'm happy with all of them, but I like to call myself health-based.
Tell us more about your own poisoning.
Yeah.
Like, how long have you been practicing, and like how did you treat that?
And it's interesting. That's a great question, because that really is the rest of my story. The beginning of my story was, I was sick. I had gut issues, and that was kind of the first thing, but who doesn't? That's kind of what I thought. Who doesn't have gut issues? I'm not that different. But the big ones were memory. I've always had a good memory. I was the kid in school. I could read a page and I could tell you any word on it. I could just remember. But I stopped remembering anything. I couldn't remember a patient's name from room to room. And so I knew something was drastically wrong. And then the numbness. I couldn't blow dry my hair. I couldn't put my mascara on. I couldn't sleep. I would literally have to sleep sitting up because my hands would be so numb. I couldn't do any of these things. And I couldn't hold instruments. So like I said, I put the practice for sale, was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was in my early 30s, and my husband actually works for the practice too. He does all the accounting and bookwork and behind the scenes things, and so we were without a job if we had to sell the practice. So I finally talked to somebody, and he said, have you looked into mercury poisoning? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any fillings, because in school they told us, yes, these fillings have mercury, and then we learned that, but no one ever said it could be a problem for the dentist. In fact, they said if you tell anybody that mercury could be problematic for their health and it could relate to their mouth, you will lose your license. That was all we were told.
You're strong-armed.
Wow.
Yeah. You will lose your license, because there was this crazy dentist named Hal Huggins in Colorado, and he lost his license telling anybody that, like, their MS could be cured from taking out their silver fillings. So don't even go there, don't touch it, never say it. So that's all I had ever heard. And so this other dentist was telling me, check your mercury levels. I said, well, I've checked everything else. I guess I might as well check that too. Checked it, and it was off the charts, mercury toxicity. And all of a sudden, all the symptoms made sense because mercury is a neurotoxin. So it's affecting my nerves, my memory, my brain, my gut. Mercury interferes with zinc absorption, which helps to make stomach acid. So my stomach wasn't making acid anymore. I mean, all these things all of a sudden lined up. And I had to figure out how could I keep being a dentist and removing fillings, but do it in a way where I could get better, because with detoxing, you can't get stuff out if you keep putting it in. You have to stop putting it in to be able to get it out. So I found there were organizations that did this. They actually had protocol for how to do this. I had never heard of them. Nobody ever talked about them. They were the crazy people over there. We didn't talk to those
Holistic.
people. Exactly. They're the holistic dentists over there. We don't talk to those people. But I started just doing it for my own self. And as I would change things, and patients would say, you're doing a few things differently here. Why are you wearing this crazy mask? And why are you covering me now when we take out these fillings? What's going on? I started explaining that, and they started saying, my doctor might be interested in this. My chiropractor talks a lot about this kind of stuff. Would you be interested in talking to them? And that's how I learned, is from other practitioners, not dentists. Dentists are clueless. Dentists don't know. So I tell people this all the time. It's not that dentists don't tell you or trying to hide something. They literally don't know. They don't know. I didn't know. I'd never heard of it. And I was the dentist that was going to CE courses, education courses and things my entire career. I was always learning more. Never heard a word about this. So how did I get better? And that's really the part of the story that I've never really told. And that is what I was doing up until May, was writing a book. And it will be published next May. Books take a long time when it's with a traditional publisher. It's actually with a subsidiary of Simon & Schuster. So this is a real big girl book, because I've written 5 other books, but they were not big girl books. They were ones I published on my own. They were great. But this is all about how do you help every single cell in your body be well. And I use my healing journey and how I got there as a little bit of the story or the genesis of it. But it's all about, what do your cells need and how do you provide that for them? And that's what I had to figure out for myself. How do I get this junk out of me? And then what do I replace it with? And how do I do that? So it took a long time. It wasn't an overnight process. I would say I'm still not there completely. And I don't know if I ever will be. But I'm much better now. I'm still as crazy as ever, so obviously things have improved.
I think the crazy had nothing to do with the mercury.
No, but I think maybe I couldn't utilize the crazy nearly as well when I wasn't well. So, yeah. So it took a long time, but detoxing, massive detoxing was the key to all of it.
You talk about patients noticing you're doing different protocols. Let's just put it on the table. The patient's the one with that filling in their mouth. What are the potential health concerns?
Yeah, so that is the most dangerous time, is when that filling's being removed. So people don't understand. When I'm talking about fillings, I'm talking about silver fillings. We call them silver or amalgam. They are 50% mercury. Have been since they were created, clear back in the 1830s in England, still are today. They're still being placed in mouths in the United States as well. They've been banned in numerous European countries, but they're still legal here.
U.S. is always a little behind when it comes to.
And I have theories on why they're behind. The reason they're behind is because the U.S. is so lawsuit-based, litigious. And if the ADA, the FDA, anyone were to come in and say, these fillings are dangerous, it could create health issues, every dentist who's ever placed or removed a mercury filling would be under class action lawsuit.
You'd open up a floodgate and.
They can't do it. They simply can't do it. So they won't. So they won't ever say that. So I have to say what I can say, and I can say that mercury is neurotoxic. So it's going to affect memory. So people who talk about brain fog and issues like that. It's going to affect neurologic function. So people have, tingling in their feet. They don't, have poor nerve function in their feet, and they think, oh, this is diabetes or, something. Well, no, it actually could be mercury. Liver, because that's where the body's trying to detox things. So a lot of liver issues show up because of mercury. Like I said, I had numbness in my hands. Gut issues, because it interferes with the way your stomach produces stomach acid. These are all kind of the top tier ones that you're going to see in everybody. There's a lot of other neurologic issues that are related to it, even beyond that. But those are the big ones that people notice. So yeah, when you get that filling, so let's say you have a filling break, a tooth break, and it has a mercury filling in it, has a silver filling in it. Well, if that's just drilled out normally with pieces flying and vapor flying off and you're swallowing chunks, you just got a whole bunch more mercury. And what mercury does is it goes and moves to a new neighborhood. So it lived in this neighborhood, now it's gonna go move to a new neighborhood. And the neighborhood that it loves are liver, brain, other organs. It just goes and hides. So you can't just get rid of it very simply. It's not an easy thing to get out of the body because it goes and really moves into the neighborhood and builds a house, builds a fence, so you can't really get to it. So getting the filling out without having these extra precautions is extremely dangerous. I tell people, leave them in your mouth. They're actually better in your mouth than to get it out without getting it out safely because you're gonna have this huge exposure. It's gonna move everywhere else into your brain and other places.
So what does getting it out safely look like?
So what we do is we have multiple precautions, multiple levels of precaution. Actually, in your mouth itself, we use a rubber dam so that there's no chunks that you're going to swallow. We have a giant vacuum that goes right here at your chin, so it's going to take all that vapor this way. We use 2 suctions, so one on each side of the tooth, so there's basically 3 suction sources that are doing it. We cover your face because mercury also is absorbed through the skin. So we cover your face, we cover your whole body. We use an air filtration system in the room. That all has to happen. We also have you swish with chlorella beforehand, which allows any chunks that get in the mouth through all of our other precautions to be grabbed. And then we have you swish after to get rid of it too. Okay. So all of those things.
Wow.
Yep. That's why people started noticing. I think something's different.
Am I the dentist or am I a hazmat?
Exactly right.
They might be one and the same.
Yep. And we are the only place basically west of the Mississippi that has rooms that are closed rooms so that we're not filling the whole rest of our office with mercury too. So even somebody sitting in the reception area could have an issue if a filling's being removed in that office because now it's circulating through the HVAC system, you're getting mercury vapors. So this is all a real thing. Now, if you break a mercury thermometer, you're going to have to call like poison control. You can't dispose of that. People talk all the time about mercury in vaccines, about mercury in salmon and fish and tuna. And do they ever talk about mercury in fillings? It's literally the #1 source of mercury in the entire environment is mercury fillings. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. And the other concerning thing is dentists have a really high rate of suicide, which is very odd.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting? And I always would scratch my head and say, well, why? Oh, it's so stressful. I could think of very stressful jobs that aren't dentistry. Let's name them.
Yeah.
Crane operator, 1,000 feet above the ground, air traffic control. I think we can think of some, there's some, right? There's some very stressful jobs.
But
why are dentists committing suicide? Because guess what mercury does to your brain? It fries it. And the profession isn't talking about it. I have numerous dentist friends who've committed suicide. Why? Because our brains are being fried by it. Nobody's talking about it. Everybody's too scared to. It infuriates me.
Yeah, that's so sad.
Yep. So for patients, and so every single time you chew or swallow or put your teeth together, if you have a silver filling in your mouth, it's releasing mercury into your body.
Wow.
Just while we're on the subject, what are your thoughts about mercury and vaccines?
Again, that's another one that you go, all right, do you touch this one? What do you do with it? Well, it's interesting because I have been working with a functional medicine practitioner to actually join our practice. This is why I say 3 now, might be a 4th, because probably a functional medicine practice will be there soon. And I discussed this with him. The challenge, people don't understand the challenges with practitioners sometimes. So mercury is part of the preservative process with a vaccine. And if you have a preservative-free vaccine, the companies will only sell you them in lots of about 12. So if they have one pediatric patient that comes and says, I want to use preservative-free vaccines, well, the doctor themselves actually has to purchase 12 of them. So now you have to have 12 patients that want a preservative-free vaccine in order to use up all of the stock, or you have to charge that one patient about $1,500 for that one vaccine. So this is the challenge that practitioners face as well. And it's a challenge for everyone because they don't want to have vaccines that have other issues like mercury and other problems in them, but they are also struggling to figure out how to financially make it viable to offer options for people. So we just kind of avoid that one entirely and go to some other methods for vaccination if possible. But this is one that we're struggling with right now. So what we're hoping to do is to create a clientele large enough that we can then have options that are very good, where people don't have to choose either or. It's, oh no, we can do this.
Well, and you actually, based on, and people can catch your bio at the show, but you decided not to only study and understand dentistry. You went back and got some additional certifications in, I don't want to say holistic.
Exactly. A bad word. No. Yes, and naturopathy. Okay. So basically looking at the whole body completely head to toe, how does it connect?
So you're a naturopath.
Yep.
And a dentist.
Yep.
And a functional nutritionist, remind me.
Yeah, therapeutic nutritional counselor.
Therapeutic nutritional counselor.
Yep.
Really tying in, again, it's and you're seeing this come to fruition in your practice, where it's not simply, drilling and filling.
Yep.
Right?
Dentistry is largely mechanic work. If you think about it, it's largely being a mechanic. You have a broken tooth and you need it fixed. So they're going to make something and put it on. It's kind of like an oil change, or you know what I mean?
Broken
changing the
axle.
timing belt, or broken axle, or changing the brake pads. I mean, that's kind of what dentistry is. And it's interesting. I just had a conversation this week with an ENT, and she was even bemoaning a little bit this specialization. She said the problem when we became specialists is that we all stopped paying attention to anybody else's area.
Yeah.
And so I was discussing a lot with her about tongue ties and lip ties and how it affects the growth and development of the mouth, and that growth and development of the mouth then affects the airway and the nose and the breathing, which is now her area, right? Not in my area, but her area. And she said, I never look at lip ties or tongue ties. For some reason, we forgot that like the front of the face was connected to the middle of the body and the airway as well. And so she was bemoaning this idea, and that's exactly what's happened to medicine in general, is that we forgot that we're all connected head to toe. And so one thing that we do affects everything that we do. And this concept of a side effect, everybody hears this, right? I mean, you hear it on the commercials on TV. They name off like 50,000 side effects, and then at the end they say, and you might have death. But you should take it anyway. So a side effect simply means that anything you put in your body affects every cell in your body. Some we want. That's our desired effect. That's the reason we take it. Let's say we take ibuprofen. It's because we have a headache, right? Our desired effect is make the pain go away. But that ibuprofen actually acts on every single cell in the body as well.
37 trillion cells are all getting ibuprofen.
Right. All of them. And some of them don't work very well with ibuprofen, like your gut. And it creates leaky gut, basically, and you can get gut bleeding because of ibuprofen. It's simply because everything works on every cell. And the same thing goes with everything that we use, everything that we take, every doctor that we go to, everything we do works on every single cell. So we really should be looking at us as simply just a big old mass of cells. And everything we do should be aimed and think about, what does it do to every single cell when I do this? So that's why we have tried to pull it all together and say it makes no sense to separate it out. Let's look at the body as a whole, top to bottom.
Heal the cell. Heal the body.
Heal the cell.
Right.
Heal the body. Exactly right. So that's why it was a little different when you came in as a patient.
It was a lot different.
Exactly. But that's what we hope to do.
What are the top 3 reasons women should be concerned about historic or common dentistry practices?
So there's 3 biggies inside of dentistry that can affect your overall health. The first one we've already talked about, which is metals. Not just mercury. There's also other metals in the mouth. There are old style crowns have a metal core underneath, but usually it's a precious metal, which means gold, platinum, silver, palladium, those kind of metals. Some real cheap crowns, old crowns, had nickel in them, which a lot of people struggle with nickel. Women particularly struggle with nickel in earrings and rings. They're the one, you wear the cheap jewelry and you're like, oh, why is my finger green and why do my ears itch now, or why are they red? And it's because they have nickel in them. So a lot of women are actually sensitive to nickel. So that's a problem with mercury. We're not seeing it as much anymore, but titanium implants is another problem. So just metals in general, the mercury, titanium implants, and the interesting one with titanium implants, this is really a fascinating one for me. Metals conduct electricity. Right? They heat up. When you put them in hot water, this is why when you can't get that stuck lid off of the jar, what do?
Put it under running hot water in your sink.
Why? Because it speeds up the molecules move faster, and they expand. And then you're able to take that lid off. So metals conduct electricity, they conduct heat. That's why you can't put a metal pan in the microwave. I remember years ago, we had like one of the first microwaves. Nobody had microwaves. We had this microwave. We were so cool. And put a metal pan in it. What happens? Sparking like crazy, right?
We're talking science experiment.
Science experiment, yep. So metals conduct electricity, and they're affected by frequencies. So a microwave is a frequency. There's a wave that goes through the metal, heats it up. Guess what Wi-Fi, cellular frequencies are? They're all frequencies. We can't see them. And interestingly enough, we can't see most energy waves. If we could, we couldn't actually see. We'd be surrounded by everything. You know, we can't see infrared, we can't see heat, we can only see visible wavelength. There's so many other frequencies we're surrounded by, and now that we have all this Wi-Fi and cellular frequencies, as they move through metals, they heat them up. And what they're finding is in orthopedics, knees and hips and shoulders, literally the bone is melting away. Because as these frequencies are passing through the metal, it's heating them up 4 to 5 degrees, which then starts to kill the bone surrounding these metal parts and pieces of us.
Just because you've got the metal in you.
Correct.
And you're just living.
And it's getting warm.
It's not like you're putting a cell phone on your shoulder.
Nope.
We're just talking about.
I mean, think about how many waves are we hit by right now.
Bluetooth and.
How many Wi-Fi? If we pulled up on our phone and looked up the number of Wi-Fi, we could pick. I mean, how many would probably pop up? In this building, probably 500. You know what I mean? And so we're just surrounded by these frequencies. Yeah, so it's just a part of life. So metals are problematic because of the frequency-filled world we live in. So that's one. The second one is hidden infections. Where do they hide? At the end of old root canals and where teeth were removed. Most frequently, wisdom teeth. So those are biggies. Root canals are the bane of my existence because I see so many failed root canals, and they don't just fail nicely. When I say fail, I mean they get reinfected. And when you have a root canal, the nerve is gone, the nerve is removed. So now the warning system's gone. You have no idea that it's reinfected because there's no more nerve. It's a dead organ. Yeah. So the tooth is dead, but we left it in the body. I joke all the time, if you had your gallbladder taken out, would they take it out, clean it up, and shove it back in? No. Why? Because bacteria always find dead stuff. A tooth that's had a root canal is dead. It's a dead thing. And bacteria always find it. You have no nerve. You have no idea. It's reinfected. So this infection grows. It affects your body. So your body's like dealing with this chronic infection. We see autoimmune disease, everything all the way down to cancer because your body can't deal with nonstop infection and something else. So it just can't deal anymore. So we see all these issues. And these infections are so huge, they blow huge holes in sinuses, huge holes out the side of people's jawbones. I take these CT scans and I think, oh my gosh, you have a quarter-size hole under your sinus. You wonder why you have chronic sinus infection? Because you have a failed root canal that's eaten a hole in the bottom of your sinus and it's filling it nonstop with infection, bacteria all the time. No wonder you wake up and you constantly have this post-nasal drip. No wonder you've been on 15 antibiotics and it never gets better because the source is the infected tooth. So this is my everyday talking to people about root canals. So that hidden infection there, and there's often hidden infection where teeth were removed and they didn't heal. So that's number 2.
I've been there. Like you, you've been. We did the scans.
You know all about those hidden infections.
Oral surgery, cavitation.
Yep.
Hey, we should have a lot more bone density here. What happened? Oh, I had a root canal, huh? A couple of them, I think. Yeah.
Yep, and now it's eating away the jawbone and causing massive issues body-wide because of it. And then the third is breathing. People don't realize that those infections cause swelling in the back of your throat. We take out teeth for braces. Why do we take out teeth for braces? Because it's easy. Like if you were to come in, your kid were to come in, and they had a whole bunch of crooked teeth. Guess what the easy way is to straighten them? Take some of them out.
Yeah.
It's easy, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's less of them to straighten. Perfect, makes it so much easier. But the problem is the tongue and all the tissues in the back of the throat and the mouth, they have to have so much space to live in. Like they need a garage. Well, if you take out teeth, you now make the garage tiny. So you're trying to fit your big full-size truck in there, and the garage is only as big as a little, VW Bug to fit. So where does the tongue and the tissue have to go? Back into the space that the air should go.
Breathing.
And now you don't breathe. Now you don't sleep. Now kiddos wet the bed until they're 14. Why? Because they're not getting enough air at night, and it leads to irritation in the bladder. Now kids have ADHD symptoms like crazy. They can't focus. They're tossing and turning all night long. They wake up with these dark circles under their eyes. Women all the time. I see women all the time. They're covering up. They're using concealer to cover up these dark circles under their eyes. Well, what is this? What are they concealing? They're concealing the fact that they can't breathe. That's what it means.
Oh my goodness.
Have you read Breathe?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Fabulous book.
We are into it.
Yeah, fabulous book.
We haven't read it in the last 2 weeks. It's probably been over a month, but we are reading this book, and we go in the sauna actually, in our infrared sauna,
Awesome.
and read that book, and it's actually fascinating.
It is very fascinating.
Yep. Breathing it affects 80% of people. This lack of being able to get enough air. You can't be well.
Make America breathe again.
There you go.
Make America breathe again with Dr. Michelle Jorgensen.
That's my next book. Would you like to co-author it?
Let's do it.
Exactly right. So those are the three big ones: metals, infection, and breathing.
I only had a couple.
Wait, I think
You didn't have all
I
three?
think you had all three of those, didn't you?
No metals in my mouth.
Oh, no metals.
There you
Oh,
go.
you didn't have
Metals.
any fillings?
I had fillings, but no metals.
Oh, okay.
No
Gotcha.
metal ones. Good. So you
Yeah.
only had 2 out of the 3.
Only two of the
You're
three.
flying high. You're flying high. Good job.
Kind
Good job. I think I had all
how
three.
my genes roll.
I think I might have had all three.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, those worn teeth. That means you can't breathe. That's what that means. Straight up.
So what are you going to do about it?
He's gonna hide his teeth from now on.
Oh, this is a choice. This is choice. You can either hide it, or you can ignore it, or you can do something about it. What is the next step for me, by the way?
That's a great question. Should we diagnose you right now?
Is
But
it
yeah.
is it the myelin? Is it
Probably
the
making more
mouth?
space. Making more space for everything to live. You got a full-size truck. I mean, have you seen the hat you're wearing? You're only driving trucks. We got a full-size
Listen,
truck and it's trying to fit in the tiny little garage.
I ain't getting into a little two-seater
Exactly.
Hyundai.
Exactly
Okay.
right. We got to get a bigger garage. Yep.
Speaking of bigger garages, let's talk to women, because your audience. Interestingly, we were doing the stalking on you, which of course you provided the information for us to stalk you.
That was nice of me.
Shout out to Pam. Shout out to Pam.
Yep.
In the office, but I had no idea you have a large follower. Like I didn't realize how big your following is just because we're already in it. We're already in the stream. We by the way, if you ever get invited to Michelle's house for dinner, incredible. And
guys did.
It was
we got to
amazing.
we can't get this all done in 90 minutes today, but beautiful yard, beautiful gardens. Your garden was 2 months ahead of my garden, our garden. I was like, how did you do this? We're building 2 greenhouses, by the way, right now.
Very good.
2 greenhouses.
Yes, very good.
Women. Your audience is worldwide 89% women.
Yeah.
Which is actually ours. Actually, ours is probably like 98 because
Yep.
Yeah.
not all men listen to all the episodes. Although we do have some very, very faithful men who we call men who know.
There we go.
Right?
Men who are wise.
But-
It's because women make healthcare decisions.
Just like, me finding her and you coming along.
And bringing the credit card.
Yep. Women make the healthcare decisions, so they're the ones who go searching.
What can women do now, particularly for children?
Yep.
Like what are 1 or 2 important lifestyle changes, habits that they can implement that'll make a difference from birth?
Yep. So the first thing is just keep the teeth clean, but that's what everybody knows. That's all anybody knows is brush your teeth. Make your kids brush your teeth, But I do reinforce it, and I have 4 kids. I have 2 grandbabies, and people will say, well, my kids cry when I brush their teeth. And I say, great, that means their mouth's open already then. Honestly, there's some things in life that are worth a cry, that are
Yes.
but there's some hills that you do die on, and that's one of them.
You're not going to imprint that you're a bad person.
No.
This is not abuse.
No, this is not abuse. This is simply brushing their teeth. And they'll say, oh, but they're going to brush that on their own. Guess what? They're capable of brushing their teeth on their own when they're capable of using a knife and fork effectively, which, think about your kids. How old is that? Like 8?
I was going to say 18.
18, perhaps, depends on the kid, so they just don't have the dexterity to do it. And so just do it for them. You have to do it for them until they're and so usually by the time they're 3, 4 in the negotiating stage, I negotiate and say, okay, you can do it once a day and I do it once a day.
I like that too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You do it. Which one do you want? Do you want to do morning or do you want to do night? That way they get to choose, but you're still making sure that you're getting in there once a day because they're just simply not going to clean. And the other thing that it does is it gives you eyeballs on their teeth. It makes me so sad times when moms bring in kiddos and, we're doing happy visit, we call it, and they're 3 years old and we're looking in the mouth and I have to say, there's 4 teeth that are literally decayed almost to the gum line here. They have 4 abscess teeth. And mom's like, what do you mean? And I show them, kids screaming at this point because they're in the dental chair. I'm like, well, mouth's open. Come on in. Let's look, and they've never really looked in the mouth before. So you have to be in there enough to see what's going on. And then there's other moms that say, I see this teeny tiny little black speck. And I'm like, perfect. Because you saw it when it was so small, we could do something simply about it. We can heal that one, but by the time it's big and it's going to be a problem. So get in there and be a part of their cleaning. Be a part of their tooth care. You have to be. And what I like to clean with, so we haven't talked about fluoride at all, but this is a big one that moms need to know about, parents need to know about. It's interesting because it's not a recent study. It was released about a year ago, but national media just got wind of it. A study that showed that fluoride decreases IQ in children, definitively. That's a hard one to define, and they definitively showed it. It was a meta-analysis of a whole bunch of different studies, so it's not worth it. And fluoride used to be used, historically, they used it as a treatment for hyperthyroidism, which means it decreases thyroid function, and it's been known for a long time because it used to be the treatment of choice for hyperthyroidism.
Right. So let's put that into all of our kids.
Exactly. We're decreasing all their thyroid function. We're putting it in the water. We're putting it everywhere. We're giving it to you when you come to the dentist. We're putting these big trays that have concentrated fluoride in them and having you suck it all down. We're sucking, but they're swallowing all of it. So fluoride's a big issue. So moms, you don't have to use fluoride, and don't let your dentist shame you into it. Because that's what happens. You get shamed into it. You go to the dentist and they're like, oh, you don't know anything. Your kid's going to have a mouthful of cavities. It's going to be all your fault. And that's what they hear. It's not true, because there's an alternative to fluoride, and it's called hydroxyapatite. And it's literally just the mineral that teeth are made of. So moms, you don't use fluoride anymore. You're going to use hydroxyapatite. So hydroxyapatite tooth products are going to be your tooth powder or toothpaste. I have a tooth powder that I have a kid version. Your kiddos love it, I know. Yeah. It's a citrus flavor. It's great. Kids like it. You're going to use that. We have a hydroxyapatite containing mouthwash as well. And literally, moms, you can rebuild and regenerate and heal cavities if they're small with these materials. So you got to get hydroxyapatite into them. No more fluoride. The third thing is just be really involved with how are they sleeping? Are they mouth breathing? Are they tossing and turning a lot? Do they have ADHD symptoms? Are they bedwetting? If they have any of these things, we need to start growing their mouths. We need to start directing the growth. And there's things you can do starting at age 3 with this to direct the growth and development of the mouth, because we don't want you to turn into one of these 80% of adults who are struggling to get enough air at nighttime.
80%.
80%. And if you are not getting enough air at nighttime, it's going to decrease your life expectancy by 20%. So if you're going to live to 80, you're now going to live to 60. Are you okay with that?
No.
Exactly. Neither am I. So there's things we can do about it. So the cool part in kiddos is they're so plastic, they're so malleable and moldable. We can change. And why do we need to? Like, why? There's 2 big things people question me about all the time. Why do we need to get wisdom teeth out? And why do so many people need braces? It's just like rite of passage, right? You get wisdom teeth out when you're like 16 to 18, and you get braces when you're 12 to 14.
Let me guess, they're the same answer.
They're the same answer. You might guess what it is.
I'm thinking truck.
Truck.
I'm thinking truck. I'm thinking F-350 truck in the garage.
And why? Why is the garage too small? Because it didn't used to be too small. If you take skulls from people who died like 300 years ago, they have all the teeth in their head, and they all fit, and they weren't crooked. What changed? Nutrition levels in our food. The first bone affected by malnutrition is the top jaw. And I learned this personally because I adopted a little boy at 2.5. He was extremely malnourished. His top jaw was so small, it fit completely inside of his bottom jaw, and his teeth were lined up like airplanes on a runway. There was so little room in his mouth. Oh, wow. And I was like, what the heck happened to this kid? Like, what is going on here? And that's when I learned that malnutrition, the first bone affected is your top jaw. So we're called the most overfed, undernourished population on the planet that's ever lived. Because the food we eat doesn't have nutrients in it anymore. It's nutrient deficient. So we're eating
ultra-processed, and we're going to the grocery store. 80% of what's outside, we're not even getting to the organic, and the glyphosate that may be in our vegetables,
all
whatever.
Of that,
but let's just stick over the 80% of the rest of the real estate is ultra processed food.
Yep.
Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly right. And when they ultra process it, they strip it of all of the natural vitamins and minerals, and then they will fortify it by putting some back in. But they're going to put back in the least expensive version of the thing. So they're going to say fortified with calcium, fortified with this. Well, they're going to put the least expensive version of that thing in, which is going to be an inorganic version, which is like a rock. Well, we don't actually absorb rocks. We pass them through. So when you're getting fortified foods, you're getting foods that your body actually can't use. So it sounds great. They stripped everything out of it, put a whole bunch back in, but the part that they put back in, your body can't utilize. So our bodies are nutrient deficient, particularly in minerals and the vitamins that are required to absorb minerals. So vitamin D3 and K2 are required to absorb minerals properly. And our bodies aren't getting them. So if a child isn't getting enough minerals through the diet or through supplementation or whatever other reason, you look like you are. They're the right size. They have enough calories, so you don't realize that actually the nutrients are deficient. So if there's not enough, the bones don't grow properly. And the first bone affected is the top jaw, which leads to crooked teeth and not enough room in the mouth for wisdom teeth. So now pretty much everybody needs braces and their wisdom teeth out. They didn't used to. So moms, what do? We need to get nutrients into our kiddos. The best way is to grow our own food, because where do the nutrients in the food come from? The ground. This is the problem. The ground that food is grown in today doesn't have nutrients in it. All they do is they spray the top part of the plant with fertilizer that grows the plant, but it doesn't actually add nutrients. The nutrients come from the ground.
Right.
But they don't grow in ground usually anymore. And they don't grow in ground that's full of nutrients. So the best way is to grow in the ground. But I talk to people everywhere. Not everybody's going to be able to grow a garden like you and have a greenhouse like you.
Or like you.
Yeah, we're fortunate. We're very fortunate that we can. So where do you find it? Well, you find growers that have food that grew in the ground. So that's farmers markets, those kinds of things. If that's not even available, then you're going to supplement. You're going to supplement with real nutrients, so food-based supplements that actually have the real version that your body can utilize. You just have to get enough. So most kids nowadays are probably going to have to be on a food-based supplement just to get enough.
Well, and cut the boxes. Like, cut the number of boxes that your food comes out. Sometimes I really think the things that I grew up eating, my favorite things. You kidding me? Growing up, give me a Cheeto. Like, even now, I said the word Cheeto, Pavlovian response, my mouth is watering right now, because I ate a lot of cheese balls, the little cheese puffs too, although I prefer the crunchy Cheeto. But really, like, is there any value? Doritos, Cool Ranch.
Yeah.
Like, if you just want to know my flavor of choice, Cool Ranch, there is almost nothing, like, I don't even I can say the word almost. That's probably very generous. There is nothing nutritive about that. And so, no, we're not going to get into conspiracies. I mean, it's just
the way our world is now.
It is the way our world is.
Yep.
But I could sit down, and when we travel, because we travel a lot, and then we're on the road, a lot, and Steph knows if I get tired, then I need something.
A munchie.
I need a munchie.
Yep.
You know what the problem with real food is? You can't munch it.
Other than carrots.
It's like you can only be Bugs Bunny to a certain degree. Like, I could literally down half a bag, giant bag of Doritos on a little road trip, because I'm tired. crunch. I love you like crunch, right? The flavor, but the crunch keeps you awake.
Yep.
I try that. Try that with nuts. Like, you cannot eat 3 cups of nuts. Believe me, folks. You want gut issues? You're going to have gut issues. Carrots, celery, broccoli, right?
You can't eat that much. And it's actually, I have this in my book. There's a thing called the apostat. It's in the hypothalamus, and it's basically your thermostat for hunger. And we think it's calories, but it's not calories, it's nutrients. So the reason you can eat the whole bag of Doritos is because there's zero
nothing
nutrients in it.
Yeah.
So your apostat says still empty.
Right.
Still empty. It's why you can eat so much junk food and you still feel hungry, because your apostat still says empty.
Yeah.
And this is why you can only eat so many carrots or so
Exactly.
many nuts, because they're full of nutrients and your apostat says full. No more.
Yep.
Done. Cut off. So
You've got
that's
to figure out some other way to stay awake.
Well, so part of it, it's called GLP-1. It's just called that hormone. I'm not talking about the injectables. I'm talking about what if the actual GLP-1 hormone in your body, which controls that, and we've actually got an episode coming on that.
This is the big talk nowadays.
It is a big talk, and we're going to get all things gut health. I'm not just talking about dieting and wellness, but part of it is the mind, and part of it is the body. Number one, I just can't eat Doritos. Like, I just don't eat it anymore. Like, you bought that bag of Doritos. You were so kind.
Okay, so usually,
You're being a good wife.
Usually we're on the road, and like out of nowhere, he stops at the gas station and buys this tiny little bag, and I'm like, how much was that?
For
And
the
what's
same
my
price
answer?
as the giant bag at the Walmart.
At Costco.
Yeah,
I'm
what's my
like-
answer, though?
It's always like, I don't know.
Like,
I didn't look.
like-
I'm like, I am buying you a bag at Costco, and we will put it in there. I tell him I don't want to, because I know this is crap and it's horrible for you. But if you're going to buy it anyways, then I'll buy you a bag and we'll save it for you for when we're on the road trip.
$350 for the giant bag, or $350 for the
$475
$475 for the two
one.
small bags.
Exactly.
And it must be a nostalgic thing from the past too, because I don't eat them that often. Mainly road trips, or like I have this thing, like I've been programmed. Doritos, are you kidding me? They're delicious, right? They are delicious. I mean,
I used to feel that way, but like the more that I've healed my gut and I've made better choices, you even talking about it's making me cringe.
yeah.
It's good.
So
You're coming around.
yes.
I am.
So I will say, for
So
the
think
record,
of how bad it was for me to have to buy it. I was like, oh.
she's like, she had to go, and she's like, Father, I have sinned.
Nobody in the store, please look at my cart right now.
Seriously.
Here we are. We preach health and wellness. Honestly, though, I can tell you, like in the last 3 years, I haven't had one bag of Doritos. Like, really, like we've cut that down. You're giving me
Not one in the last 3 years.
not more
Maybe
than one.
one.
Not more than one. What I'm saying is aggregate. I haven't eaten more than a bag of Doritos in the last 3 years, because I just literally haven't wanted to. Edit that out, please. We have a disagreement. We have an impasse
You
here.
can probably count on one hand in the last.
There you go,
One
one
hand.
hand.
Baloney. There's no way. Like, I've been a changed man, babe.
Is that why you're still craving Doritos?
Only because we started talking about it. So this, we have this Mercedes Sprinter, 24-footer that we travel in, right, with the kids. We were on the road doing meetings and interviews and whatnot. So this big bag of nacho cheese, Doritos, is sitting up there, and it's been sitting up there for probably 6 to 12 months.
No.
Yes.
Maybe
Selective memory.
the last few trips. Honey, I don't even think I bought it 6 to 12 months ago.
We're going to check the Costco receipt. In a future episode, it's just so that we have, because we're going to put the facts, and it doesn't matter who's incriminated. So anyway, they've been there for a while. And every trip, I don't want them, Michelle. I just don't want them,
This
right?
is good.
This is great. And one of the things is we're taking better food with us. Because again, when you travel convenient, like we're a convenient society, part of the problem is our convenience has become 24/7, right?
Yep.
As opposed to, well, we're here, we're traveling, you got this going on or whatever. So we got a freeze dryer. This was one of the decisions that I made in our family, that So Stephanie,
I'm like, okay, are we really going down this road now?
I knew where I was going. So Steph got this freeze dryer for us, right? And so we get excess tomatoes from the garden, right? Celebrity tomatoes or Moscow tomatoes, right? And we thin slice them like a chip, like a tomato slice you put on a tomato sandwich.
Yeah.
And you freeze dry it, and it comes out, and it becomes a tomato chip. Have you? I don't know if you ever had that, but
No.
we do with our
yummy.
cherry tomatoes
So
too.
good.
Slice them in half, round side down, and you know what happens with freeze drying foods? It concentrates, it preserves the nutrition, right? 98% of it, 97% of it. So it's really, really good. But now we're taking this nutrition, and it impacts the flavor. It actually amplifies the flavor. And now, but the problem is, like, I can't sit down. That doggone old Hapometer, whatever it's called, the Apometer, the Apostat, right? You know, it's not the Dorita meter, right? The Dorita stat. So
It says you can't eat very many.
well, okay, go. You eat 10 tomato chips. You just ate two full-on tomatoes, right?
And your brother says you're done.
Right.
Yeah.
But you need more munchies. That's the problem.
Well, you know, yeah, and I guess part of it I've just been changing. I don't know where we're going with this, other than the fact that we're making changes, and you have to be willing to. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about the Apostat, but I've been thinking about it.
Yep.
We eat so much food. Well, I'm not. We consume so much stuff on the plate, right? But
It's not
is
all
it-
feeding us.
It's not feed yourself.
Yep.
Which doesn't mean necessarily eating.
Yep.
Right?
And you know, we're talking to women. My big thing is I never want to guilt a mom. I mean, my gosh, there's enough
They've
mom
got
guilt to
plenty.
go around.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So I never want to guilt a mom and say, oh, well, you know, you can't do that drive-through. You're going to ruin your kid's teeth for life. You know, now they're not going to breathe and they're going to die at 60 because then it's all your problem.
It was
it's all your fault.
because of
It's
In and
all
Out.
Because in and out, right there. It's the in and out epidemic. You know, I'm never going to say that. But it's just all about knowing a little bit more so that you can change choices slowly. You know, and I often joke about how when we first decided we were going to change our diet and started doing some things differently, we went, and my sister-in-law actually owned a health food store at the time, which was super convenient, you know, but we didn't know what we were doing in a health food store. I mean, we were like, I don't know what any of this stuff is.
Health food store, that's for holistic people.
Exactly, it's for holistic people. So we didn't know what we were doing. So we're going up and down the aisles, and we see these like organic gummy bears, and we're like, oh, our kids like gummy bears. So we bought a case of organic gummy bears, and now I just crack up about that. I'm like, okay, so I thought the word organic made it healthy somehow. You know, I've learned a lot in the process, but that's the way we change is by the process. It's one step at a time. So right now, just get your kids some gummy vitamins. Get your kids some whole food gummy vitamins that they like, that you can throw some, you know, some plant-based vitamins in their system. Just start there, you know, and slowly start slowing down on the drive-through and, you know, adding some other things into the
Don't buy as much cardboard.
Yeah, don't buy
You
so
know.
much cardboard and start looking for some real foods, and, you know, but it's a process. It doesn't have to happen overnight.
Absolutely. It can be, although it's overwhelming.
It's
Like-
Oh,
overwhelming.
absolutely.
Yep, you can't do it all at the same time. That's why, from a tooth perspective, just brush their teeth, and are they sleeping? You know, let's just start there.
I thought I had this recollection, and Stephanie will correct me if I had this recollection. Did you say something about nursing and oral development, mouth development, structure,
Yep, absolutely.
pacifiers? I don't know if
Yep.
you want to just
Yep.
touch base on that.
So the issue is that the tongue pressure against the roof of the mouth is what actually forms the roof of the mouth. That's just the way the body develops. So when a baby is nursing, the tongue, it goes between the nipple and the roof of the mouth, or the tongue's below, then the nipple, then the roof of the mouth, and the pressure that is needed to nurse actually puts pressure on the roof of the mouth, and it forms the roof of the mouth wide enough. So if there's not nursing, again, I've adopted 2 kids. I couldn't nurse them. So again, I'm the last one that's going to guilt a mom and say, oh, you have to nurse till they're 4 years old, or they're not going to ever be smart enough. You know, I mean, I'm just never going to say anything like that, ever, because I couldn't nurse 2 of my kids. You know, it just wasn't even possible. So what are alternatives? There's things that are close to the same as a breast would be. There's close to, but it's all about frequency and the amount of how long you're going to continue this. So we want the pressure while the mouth's developing. However, if you're starting to use sippy cups or binkies, pacifiers, well past that about 18-month time, what the body now does is it starts to narrow back again, because the widening was that tongue pressure, but now there's teeth. And so the teeth and the cheeks and the pressure of the sucking, you got that pacifier in the mouth and you're sucking, you're now constricting everything back, making everything narrower again. Kids don't need to have a bottle past the age of 12 months old. They don't need a pacifier past the age of 18 months old. They just don't need it. And a lot of this one I get a lot of fire about. Breast milk can cause cavities. People are like, oh no, it cannot. It's the most wonderful thing on the planet. I'm like, I'm not debating that. Breast milk has sugars in it, natural sugars in it. This is what feeds the baby. Of course it has sugars in it. It's all about, does it stay on the teeth? Well, here's the cool part. Kids don't actually have teeth until they're about 6 to 12 months old. So you can nurse safely, no problem. Once the teeth start coming in, 6, 8, 10 months, the babies should be sleeping through the night. They don't need a nighttime nursing anymore.
It doesn't need to be sitting on their teeth all night.
It doesn't need to be sitting on the teeth. This is the thing, because if you're daytime nursing, the baby swallows and clears it out of the mouth, no problem. So the system is set up right. It's when we start to push against the system, when we start doing nighttime feedings until they're 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, you're bathing the teeth in sugars. Natural sugars, I agree with you. It's all wonderful, but they shouldn't have it at nighttime.
Timing.
They shouldn't have it at nighttime. So I get a lot of flack about this. And I'm like, no. Nursing is fabulous. I absolutely recommend it, but you don't need to be doing it after about 8 months old at nighttime. Kids they can sleep through the night. It's proven. Go look it up. They can sleep through the night. They don't need sugar, breast milk pooling on their teeth at nighttime after that age. Otherwise it causes cavities. And people say, well, what does it look like? It's cavities all across the front teeth right here and on the back molars. So if your kiddos have that, you're looking at milk decay. And they'll say, oh, that only happens with a bottle. Happens with any milk.
So 3 of my 4 biological children started cutting teeth around 3 or 4 months.
So apparently they were ready to sleep through the night earlier.
I don't remember that. But.
Exactly. So what you can do is you can use a blanket or a washcloth and just sweep the mouth after nursing. Just get it out of there. Or sometimes even just a finger on the tongue will induce a swallow. So just don't let them nurse to sleep and then leave it there.
Okay.
You take it off the breast, you take baby off the breast, put your finger in there, have them swallow, do a quick sweep, off to sleep.
So I started using this tooth powder.
That just magically appeared.
It's amazing, isn't it, how things like that happen? Your house is amazing.
Thank you.
I'm cool with it. Like, that's right. Like me and my big truck are like just
Yep.
We agree. Mm-hmm. We agree. It's amazing.
Yep.
So Steph brought the tooth powder home, and now we it's like the American Express. We never leave home without it.
Very good.
We travel with it. It's great. But I will say, like, what's been your experience with the tooth powder? Like, I can tell the difference.
I think the biggest thing for me is I love how clean it feels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what everybody says. Like, it feels like I just went to the dentist.
Yes.
It does.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So there's a little trick that toothpastes use. They use foaming agents in them. The reason they use a foaming agent is because it makes it feel like it's doing a lot. Mm-hmm. And when it starts to foam up, then you feel like you've done your job and you're done. So you spit it out and you didn't actually clean a lick of your teeth. You didn't clean anything. So the foaming is a problem because it disguises the fact that your teeth are still dirty, but they're all foamy. It feels great.
Yeah. Well, and your mouth's full of
foam. You got to spit it.
Yeah.
You're done. Put it away. You're done. Go. So there's no foaming agent. The tooth powder, as you know, doesn't foam up at all, which people kind of have to get used to. But I want that because I want you to feel, did you clean it? Is it clean or not? Mm-hmm. So, it cleans and it replaces all those minerals that we talked about, the hydroxyapatite. It just replaces them.
Remineralizing your teeth.
Remineralizes the teeth. And when teeth are full, so teeth they can get porous with just diet, with acid, any acid. So acid in our diet, acid from our gut, acid from bacteria, they will get porous, and then they feel kind of that almost rough, you know what I'm talking about? You can feel it. When they are full of minerals, they feel very smooth. It's like, they feel super clean and just smooth. It's because their defenses are up. They're defended now because they're full of minerals. So, yep.
So this was a new experience for me because I grew up with, Aquafresh.
So did I.
Right?
The little swirl.
Yes. I thought it was so cool. My grandparents used Aquafresh.
Yep.
I think, and our family was using something else, probably Crest.
Heaven forbid.
I know. But it was just cool as my grandparents' toothpaste, right? So I grew up using that. You put this big you
old
put
thing.
full-on teaspoon and a half in the big, right? And you brush your teeth. So it was really a change when we went to tooth powder, which is like somebody put sand in a jar. It's not sand, right?
And made it
It's actually
taste
called
like mint.
hydroxyapatite.
Yeah.
And you get your toothbrush wet, because if you just put it in there, this is how I do it. I don't know if I'm doing it correctly. I haven't even read the instructions. That's how crazy. But I get it.
Shocker.
You can't script things like that. You just can't script that. Are you supposed to get your toothbrush wet?
That's typically the way you do it. You lightly wet it. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So you
good.
get a little wet, and then you just stick it in there because you don't want to make a mud bath.
Correct.
Which the first time our children
Made a mud bath.
they did, and it was all I was so mad. Anyway, you just dip it in there and kind of coat all the bristles, and then you start brushing. And again, it's a different feeling because you don't have the Aquafresh
The foam,
hot tub suds coming out of your mouth. But after I finished, oh my goodness.
Yep.
It was like, I felt like I'd just been to a dental cleaning.
In fact, I think it took at least a few days or more for him to even try it. Because he's like, I don't know.
I don't
He's seen me do it. And he's like,
I don't remember that. Just
okay.
I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I don't remember that.
There's no memory. And that's what a lot of people say. They're like, there's a learning curve to this. But then when you do, some people are like, I will never brush my teeth with anything ever again. In fact, I'm developing a toothpaste right now for the holdouts that simply won't use the tooth powder. They're like, I just can't do it. It's just too weird. I just can't do it. So I'm developing a toothpaste. And I'm the number one test subject for all of these developments, when I'm formulating products. My family and me, And so I have like 7 different versions of the toothpaste on my counter. And every day I look at it and I think, okay, which one I'm going to use? I really just kind of want to use the tooth powder. But I guess I have to try one of these pastes. And they're very good. Don't get me wrong. They're going to be amazing. But they don't have the same cleaning effectiveness. It just doesn't feel the same slick,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do the powder, and then and then the mouth rinse. And again, you're not supposed to spit these out necessarily. You don't rinse your mouth out.
Yeah, you don't rinse. You spit.
You spit out. But you don't rinse your mouth out because you're leaving all that hydroxyapatite, all those minerals on there, right?
Yep.
So check out our website, right, listeners, for our favorite products. So if you go to theforeveryoungshow.com, click on our favorite products, you can find Dr. Michelle's specially formulated tooth powder, mouth rinse, in partnership created by Just Ingredients, right?
Yep.
Awesome. So you just got back from Cambodia for a couple of weeks. Right?
I was there, 18 days, long time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I brought back some friends that were unwelcome, called parasites.
Yes.
So I went to my cell well model and I say, okay, what does my cells currently need? And what season am I in?
They're like,
okay.
This is a hurricane.
Exactly, I'm in the summer season. Clove, let's bring it on. Let's burn those babies out of there. Yep. So yes, it's very useful.
We want to talk to you about Africa on another occasion.
You need a lot of that in Africa as well.
So we do water and education and
So I need to know
women's
your charity because
education.
we're going to put it on the list for water charities.
Hearts and Hands for Humanity.
Perfect. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yep.
And next time you get, let's sequester 10 days and let's go to Tanzania and let's drill some wells and teach women in the schools and
the girls.
the girls. Yeah.
Yep. That's so great.
The girls about their bodies and their menstrual cycle and how it's a gift and all those beautiful things.
And isn't it a crazy thing that they don't know? I've often thought this because I joke that I'm going to go and teach people how to grow food in India. And people are like, well, don't people in India know how to grow food? Haven't they been doing it a lot longer than we've been doing it here? I'm like, you know what? They used to know.
Yes.
They used to know. But for some reason, our Western influence of just relying, this is actually one of my missions too, is to help people reclaim their ability to stay well. They don't have to depend on pharmaceuticals, on doctors, on any of these things. You actually have the ability. Your own body is the only thing that heals. Nothing that you put in it heals it. Your own body does the healing. So we have the ability. We just have to learn. We have to relearn how. So thank you for teaching them again things that they knew probably years ago, but just haven't remembered, haven't passed on.
Yeah, we've also taken on an orphanage, and right before we took it on, we would go. We have a gentleman, a local that lives there, and we'd give him money to get food, I think a few times a month. And then we also had a volunteer group go over and plant a garden and teach them how to do that and all of that kind of stuff.
Good. So good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Love it.
Amazing.
You are the CEO of your health, of your life, of your wellness, your choices.
Yep.
You got the executive decision, and don't give it to anybody else.
Yep. And you need to learn your job as CEO. That's the problem, is most of us have never been trained. Well, CEOs just don't step into their position. They have a lot of training in order to do that. So that's what I hope to do, is to actually train you to be a CEO. I love that.
Awesome. So when shall we anticipate the release of the new book, Living Well with Dr. Michelle?
So pre-orders should start in October or November, so soon, a couple months.
Great.
And that's when I'm going to get all the charity information out, because again, any people that you tell about it that say, I heard about it from this podcast or this, whatever it might be, the charity's donated in your name to whatever charity, this water charity. I love it. I absolutely love it, because this is information that we need to train people how to be the CEO of their body. So pre-orders this fall, book will be out in May of 2025.
Awesome.
But I'm going to be talking a lot about it until then. So lots of information coming soon.
Amen.
Yes.
Yep.
And cut. It's a wrap.
Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for sharing this episode with that one friend who needs this conversation. Thank you for all the ratings, the reviews, the comments, and especially the support. We so appreciate you.
Now, if you want to take a peek behind the curtain and be the first to know about special previews, backstage updates here at the show, and especially some private collection content that doesn't come out in the regular show,
be sure to join our VIP community at theforeveryoungshow.com.